This is Laricy Live, and I'm your host, Matt Laricy. We're giving you unfiltered access to the world of real estate, where we can cover the market trends, news, and honest answers to keep you ahead of the real estate game. Laricy Live is brought to you by Lincoln Title. Lincoln Title is the best and most efficient title company in Chicago and is the best place to close your property. Laricy Live is brought to you by Guaranteed Rate and Ben Cohen. Ben Cohen is the #1 lender in Illinois and can close your loan in as fast as 8 days. Today, we're talking about prime time. This is prime time. This is like Deion Sanders' prime time. Prime time is the best of the best. I put this in a newsletter a couple weeks ago that this is as good as it gets. You know, you don't know that it's as good as it gets. Like, this is the best time until a few years later or something, right? Like in your life, you look back like, oh, those are the best years of my life. Well, if we took that saying and looked at the real estate market in the year, March and April is like the peak. It's as good as it gets. This is the prime season. This is the prime time. So what I want to do is just kind of highlight some really big things that are happening right now, some hot topics that are happening in the industry because the market's moving so fast to kind of stay up with. So the first thing is multiple bids. Multiple bids are the norm in the outskirts. And if we look at which ones are performing the best, it's going to be a property in the outskirts under, let's say, $500,000. A property under $500,000 in the outskirts is hands down performing the best. You put something up in like Lincoln Park for $450, it's going to sell for $500,000 day one. I mean, that's how crazy it's going to get. Now, the difference is downtown, you know, in like, let's say, River North, you put something up at $450, day one, you're kind of checking the internet to make sure that, like, you know, you didn't miss anything. Like, hey, did I misprint the assessments, or, you know, laundry? Did I make sure it's included on there? So, you know, there is a difference, but multiple bids are the norm. Another big thing is what I call flash sales. What's a flash sale? Flash sales are huge this time of year. Flash sales are properties that come on the market and sell in 24 hours or less. They are gone in a flash. I feel like it's like almost like selling a car. You know what I mean? Like in the 80s when you were doing those quick used car sales specials for the weekend. And that's what's happening with properties right now. Is some of these properties in the outskirts, in certain price points, are leaving the market as quick as you could blink an eye. And we call those flash sales, and flash sales will be here to stay in March and April. March and April are the peak of when a flash sale happens. Let's look at the difference in showings, okay? You want to know how quick a market can flip? When people tell me like, markets don't change that quick, I'm like, markets change. If they can change. And you tell me, no, Matt, markets can't change that quick. And I'm telling you, let me tell you something. Let me tell you a little story. Let me take you back to the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter, the entirety of the fourth quarter, our entire amount of showings, every showing, okay, that we had was 100 showings total. 100 showings total in the entirety of the fourth quarter. They're like, Matt, that sounds pretty good. Well, first off, that's not good. But let me show you how quick a market could flip. In the first 3 months, January to March 1st, we had 1,683 showings. Think about that, 1,683 showings from January 1st to March 1st compared to 100 showings in the fourth quarter. You want to talk about a quick flip in the marketplace? You want to talk about a different mentality? You want to talk about a different price point? That shows you just how fast a market can flip. So you have to understand that when we talk about this as prime time, I want to look at my showing stats for March and April. I can't wait to see. I bet you we eclipse 2,000 showings in the next 60 days. I guarantee you we do. It's been absolutely crazy, and prime time is always crazy. Half the staff, I mean, they're not here right now, but they're about to have a nervous breakdown. Because most people have to have almost a nervous breakdown to survive prime time. If you're not having a nervous breakdown in prime time, then you're not selling. This is the time to make the hay, and this is the time that's crazy. So one thing I want to talk about is sellers. I have a lot of sellers now saying like, hey, I can't wait to list this summer. I want to list in June or July. And I'll tell you right now, every single seller out there, if any one of my sellers is watching this and you have a June, July mentality, I am telling you right now, you are going to miss the boat. You are going to miss prime time. And if you miss prime time, you're going to miss the market and you're going to lose money. We're talking as much as maybe 50, 100, maybe 200
$1,000 you might lose. Now, I don't know about you, but I can do some really crazy, weird shit with $200,000, okay? And that's how much money we're talking could be left on the table here, okay? A property that comes up at $450 in Lincoln Park, like we said earlier, could sell for $500,000 today, okay? That's 50 G's over ask price. Then what happens is in July, you want to list your place. You're like, hey, Matt, hey, that guy, my neighbor, sold for $500,000. I want to list mine at $525. I'm like, well, Mr. Seller, that place sold for $500,000 because it had multiple bids. It was only worth $450. You can't ask $525. You can't do it. Can't do it. You have to ask $450. And then you're like, Matt, but they got $500. I'm like, yeah, they got $500 during prime time. You can't get $500 in off season. Okay, you can't. You want to get prime time pricing, you got to sell during prime time season, okay? There's the law of supply and demand. We talk about this all the time. You do not want to miss the boat. Don't miss the boat. And one of the reasons why inventory sticks much more in the summertime, I get a lot of people like, why is there more inventory in the summertime? It's because sellers come on asking $525 because something sold for $500 in April. And I say, well, listen, that place was worth $450. So when you price it at $525, you're $75,000 over ask price. You're like, well, Matt, that one got $500. And I say, well, listen, one comp doesn't set the market. Just because one guy overpaid for a property and wanted it doesn't mean the whole market now resets, okay? So you have to realize, don't miss the market. So if you're a seller out there watching this, get in on prime time or lose some money. I always tell people, what's worth more to you, either time or money? Another big thing that we're looking at, interest rates. Where will they go? Nobody knows. You know, we thought rates would hover around the low sixes, high fives. They did that for about the first month. February didn't treat interest rates too well, near to the first part of March, but now also, or of first week of March, but now we're starting to see them creep back down. We're starting to see them get to low sixes. We know what's happening, guys. Biggest event in America is about to happen. You know what it is? It's called the presidential election. And if you don't all think that we're just pawns in this game that the politicians are playing, then you got another thing coming to you. We're just rats, guys, and we're just in this race trying to figure out what's happening. And if you don't think they're not going to get those rates down low as possible and make this economy look like great to try to have elections be won, then you're sipping something else. And I'll tell you right now that these rates are going to start coming down even further as we head into the summer season. And you know what? I think it's going to make for a good market. But for right now, the rates have been a pretty hot topic because they've been higher than some people have expected, but then they drop. So they've been on a little bit of a roller coaster ride. Another thing we're looking at during prime time, people have been bringing up Bitcoin. The Bitcoin boys in the office, they've been doing a little bit of a crypto walk when they walk through that door. Bitcoin's been soaring to new highs after a low. If anybody out there sees my brother-in-law who also works for us, his name is Mickey, the South African sensation Hobson. He's like a different person lately. The guy, he's like walking he's got like a little bit of a swag to him, like with this Bitcoin going up. His entire life savings is in Bitcoin. About 6 months ago, he looked like he had like Lyme disease or something. He had like bags under his eyes. He was a little depressed. Now, I don't know, the kid's just like, I think I just saw him just like throwing money out the window. I don't know what's happening, but all I know is that Bitcoin's going up. And I'll tell you though, the reason why Bitcoin affects the marketplace, if you guys don't remember in 21 when Bitcoin was just on a crush, we had a lot of tech money coming in. And we were selling a lot of luxury real estate to a lot of these tech guys. So I do think if Bitcoin is doing well, I think that means the tech sector is doing well, which means that we have a lot of money coming to the marketplace. So this is going to be something to watch in the summertime because typically in the late spring, early summer, the luxury market does extremely well. And if Bitcoin and the tech stocks are doing well, I think that's going to lead to a really good summer market for Chicago. The downtown market. It's another big one we're watching. The downtown, I read a great stat the other day. I don't know if I'd say it's a great stat for Chicago, but I read a great stat. And it said that the Loop vacancy has soared to 30%, actually above 30% for the first time. That's not a good thing. You don't want a lot of vacancies in Chicago. See, what people don't realize is that the downtown sector of the marketplace kind of sets the bar for what happens in the state of Illinois. You may say, Matt, how does the downtown market affect the state? Guys, it's the largest amount of real estate. It's the most valuable real estate in the state. Well, it was, right? So if you got 30% of people not going back to, or offices being vacant and people not going back to work, that means the mom and pop shops on the corner can't open up their restaurants. That means that the retail shops can't open up their stores during lunchtime to get some people to come in. That means that the apartments can't charge more money. that means that, like, there's more people kind of walk around and the crime goes up. Do you realize that this is everything is interconnected? So with the downtown market still struggling, it's really having a negative impact on our overall sector. When people look at like, wow, Miami and, Arizona and some of the suburb things are crushing it. So and people are like, well, Matt, when's the downtown market come back? I'm like, I don't know. Maybe let's have this 30% office vacancy, that sector that's just like, soaring and getting worse. Has anybody driven down State Street? Honestly, have you looked down State Street? I used to drive down State Street. I would actually go out of my way when I would go from like River North to the South Loop, and I would drive down State just because I just like driving down. I don't know. I just like looking at the stores. I don't know. Maybe it's just weird. I don't know. And I'm not buying anything. I just like driving down it. Now when you drive down it, honestly, first off, I'm like freaked out. I'm a little nervous because it's kind of like dangerous, and it's also it's just weird. The entire thing is vacant. The entire thing. You drive down State Street, every single store is gone. It's gone. It's like a ghost land. It's depressing. So like when we talk about like when's downtown market come back, I don't know. We need, more than 30% of, or that 30% soaring rate to go down. We need retail to come back. We need businesses to come back. We need everything to happen to come back. I'll tell you right now, if anybody's watching this, Johnson, you watching this, here's a great idea. Do what Daly did in the 80s. You guys got to remember in the 80s, for, all the other non-history buffs out there, in the 80s, Chicago was not doing well, okay? Mayor Daley said, hey, listen, if you're working for the city, okay, you got to live in the city. And if you don't live in the city, you can't work for the city. That's one of the things that saved Chicago. Let's use that. Let's modernize that rule, guys. That rule still stands to this day. Let's modernize it. You want to work in the city? You want to have an office in the city? Your employees got to work in the city. They got to work in the office. That's it. You want to save the city? Get that rule going. And everybody out there is like, you can say that in all the corporations. I get it. It sucks, blah, blah, blah. Let me tell you some taxpayers out there. Where is this money going to come from if there's no money coming in? Okay? Businesses make up way more taxes than anything else. Okay? The $2,000 or the rebates that you're getting are not paying for all the shit to run in the city. We need people in the city. And that's why Daley saw that, and he's like, you got to live in the city. Well, we need to take that a step further and say, hey, guys, not only do you have to live in the city, you got to work in the city, in the office. You get people back to the office, you get restaurants going again. You get retail going again. You get the city to come alive again. And guess what else that brings down, guys? That brings down crime. Why is crime rampant? There ain't anybody down there. There's nobody down. There's nothing down. There's nothing down there. So what happens when there's vacancies? You get crime, okay? It's interconnected. So these are big reasons of why the downtown market's not coming back. And you say, hey, Matt, what's this got to do with real estate? Everything. It has everything to do with real estate. Why am I going to live in the heart of the loop if I don't have to work in the loop? If nothing's open in the loop? If there's no restaurants open in the loop? Okay, so then those prices go down. So then people move out a little bit more. Then they move to River North. Now River North's getting hurt. And then they move to Lincoln Park. And then Lincoln Park's getting hurt. So then they go to Edgewater. And they go to Edgewater. And they go to suburbs. And the city's done. It's that simple, guys. It's a domino effect. And that brings me to the matching tax. That's another hot topic. Matching tax appealed off the ballot. Will it make it back in time to be voted on? I don't know. But I will tell you right now, if you're out there thinking the matching tax is a good thing, and I realize it's an unpopular decision for some people out there, if you vote yes for the matching tax, if it does make it back on the ballot, you are voting for your own death. I am telling you right now, it's not about the rich people. This has nothing to do with the rich people. First off, this is you putting your trust into the government to spend your money wisely. I don't know about you guys, but I saw Kim Fox at the Super Bowl. I didn't go to the Super Bowl. Did you go to the Super Bowl? Do you know how expensive it is to go to the Super Bowl? How's the state's attorney affording to go to the Super Bowl? Huh? I don't know. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there. But now let's say, hey, let's raise the taxes on businesses when their knees are almost cut off below underneath them, and then say, yeah, come on in. Why don't those businesses just move to the suburbs? Why aren't they just going to move out of state? And if you think that's not going to happen, you're thinking completely illogically. And the more businesses that leave, the less tax revenue comes in. Here's a great example, guys. There was this guy, his name was Ken Griffin. He owned a company named Citadel. They are super loaded. Now, him and JB got in a fight, and essentially, Griffin left because of that. People could say whatever they want, but let's face it, the two billionaires hate each other. Instead of the two billionaires coming together and working together, we had to get in a little bit of a political battle, and now we're all suffering from it. I read this morning in the news, Ken Griffin just gave $50 million to a kids' hospital. I don't know about you. I wish a kid's hospital here got $50 million. Do you know how much $50 million could do to the Southside school system? You know, you do realize that like a business like Citadel that brings in like a couple $100 million a year is phenomenal, right? Let me ask you something. 0 plus 0 still equals 0, okay? So if we have $0 coming in and I'm giving you $0, that's 0. Okay, maybe you don't like seeing businesses get tax breaks. Sure, so do I. Fuck the rich, right? Screw these guys over. They're terrible. But guess what? When we got 0 coming in, that's 0. I don't know about you, but if we had somebody like Ken here and we got $200 million, we could do some weird shit with that for the schools. Okay, imagine we got an extra $200 million this year and we were like, hey, here's the South and West schools. Let's get all these kids iPads. Let's get these kids a better education program. You could probably get every kid in the school a tutor to learn and to educate themselves and to not take the path of drugs and take the path of giving hope, learning science, learning math. I don't know, $200 million goes a long way. But instead, let's all talk about, I don't like the values that Ken stands for, so let's let him leave. Who gives a shit what he stands for? $200 million to kids in need. Instead, we let Florida have that money. So when we think about the mansion tax, guys, think about how much money we're going to be losing to the city. And this all comes back to real estate. Because the less money coming into the city, the more taxes go up. We have one of the highest tax rates in the country already. How much more taxes do we need to get until people reach a breaking point? There's a good book out there I want everybody to read. It's called The Tipping Point. The tipping point talks about when something happens, all of a sudden it tips, and that changes everything. Well, there's a certain point where people are going to tip and start going in a different direction, and Illinois has been losing some of the most people every single year since the pandemic happened, implementing more and more taxes on the most tax-heavy city in the country doesn't make much sense. So when you look at the mansion tax, thank God it's off the ballot for now, but if it does come back, we got to make sure you vote no. You got to vote. You have to vote. Because look what happens when we didn't vote. The city's in ruins because we got a shit mayor, and it's only going to get worse if we don't vote for these policies. Now, let's look at some other things. Construction. They announced that 9094 is going to be doing some huge closures. Okay? Huge closures. Well, how does that impact the marketplace? Well, think about this. How many people move to the suburbs, okay, because they're not working in the office? And they may only be working part-time in the office. So if you're working part-time in the office and you're going to be commuting in and it takes you now, it was 45 minutes and now it's 2 hours here and back, that's 4 hours a day. 4 hours a day commuting. Sounds pretty terrible. I think the 9094 construction is going to help the marketplace because the worse this traffic gets, the more attractive the city gets. And if we ever start implementing a rule, people got to start working in the office again, and people are sitting in traffic all day, that's going to make the city real estate come up, okay? We're one of the only big cities in the country where their downtown markets has actually gone down in value the last 4 years, okay? Most big cities have skyrocketed. Our prices are down anywhere from 5 to 35%. It's huge. The 9094 thing could actually really help us. Lastly, what is performing the best and what is performing the worst during prime time? I'm actually going to start with, what's a sleeper? Let's start with what's a sleeper. Here's a sleeper. $300,000 properties in the near north side. Near north side is Gold Coast, River North, Cedarville, and south part of Old Town. Now, we're talking a lot of depressing stuff, but here's the good thing. That area is crazy. I'm calling it right here and right now that is a seller's market for the first time since pre-pandemic. Under $300,000 in the near north side. First time ever. So as much negativity as I'm talking about this stuff, and the reason I'm talking about this stuff, guys, is because I don't want to see it get worse. I want to see it get better, and we need to make sure that these changes don't keep happening to make it worse. We need to wake up and realize that we need to do this stuff. But for the first time, we are seeing the near north side go to be a seller's market for under $300,000. That's a sleeper. That's one I didn't see. Another one that I see that has been doing much better than it was in the fall. Let's call this one a flip. How things flip so quick. We couldn't give away any duplex downs in Q4. Literally none. No duplex downs in West Town. No duplex downs in Lincoln Park. No duplex downs in Lakeview. Every duplex down I get now, okay, Q1, I'm selling flash sales, 24 hours or less. So when people are out there wondering why, Well, let me tell you something, guys. A lot of people are buying duplex downs, are renting, or they're about to have a kid, and they're not looking in Q4. They're just not doing it. But Q1, they're looking. And then the average person that's selling a duplex down, they have a kid. And they can't move till June because they're tied to daycare. So none of them come on until April or May. So all the duplex downs that come on in January, March, and April, or January, February, March, there's none on. So that's why they perform so well in Q1. And the other big one that has really flipped, single-family homes. Single-family homes weren't doing good in Q4. I'll tell you that. I'm not saying they were like horrible, but they weren't doing great. Single-family homes are doing phenomenal. Phenomenal. They're doing absolutely out of control great because the same thing with duplex downs. The average person selling them have kids. And for anybody out there that has kids, you got to pay your bill if they're in private school or they're in daycare, okay, through June. You don't get a rebate if they move out early. So it's huge for the people who come on first because they have no competition. So those are some of my sleepers of who's performing. Otherwise, the outskirts under $500,000 still, as we've discussed, a ton here is doing great. And the market that's doing the worst is above $1 million in the near north side and the loop. And it's been like that for now 4 years. But guys, this is still prime time. It's prime season. It's as good as it gets. March and April. This is the peak. If we were on a line graph, if we were looking at a line graph, we're here. We're going to be hovering here. And then once April 30th hits, it's going to start all going down for the rest of the year. So enjoy while you can, because this is prime selling season. Thanks for listening to Laricy Live.